I want you to watch this really quickly, right? Ryu's going to be mashing on duck short, right? Ryu's mashing on duck short. We can see it. Tried to sweep, right? Oh, what happened? Let's try it again. Try to sweep. Okay. What if I try to do a jab? Do you see my jab? You can see it. I tried to get it out. What if I try to do a beam? See that beat my medium? If you like the videos, like, sub, silly comment, share, support the channel if you can. I appreciate it. Thanks. Super chat, PayPal, Patreon. Doesn't hurt you to like the video. Doesn't hurt you to leave a comment. Doesn't hurt you to subscribe. Do it for your heart, you soulless bastard. I made this video recently again talking about Vega and people talking about neutral skips, and people like to complain that Vega is a character that jumps off the wall. The man is a ninja. Now, we just showed this, right? If I try to, if I'm sliding, boom, boom, we showed it beating both attacks, right? Like, look at the priority. Like, I can't pause it, but hopefully you can see the red and the blue, right? Hopefully you can see the red and the blue. Now, look at the red versus the blue on Ryu, right? Now, we know that if we're in this neutral sort of situation, because Ryu has such strong footsies, that beats a lot of Vega's ground game, correct? If I can't, in an old school game, it's not like I can walk back because of proximity blocking, right? So you know what I have to do? Quotation marks. Quotation marks. Do you know what quotation marks have to do? I have to jump back. I have to go in the air. Quotation marks, right? Vega, if you are when people say that Vega is a fuck footsie character and all this kind of stuff, they don't know what they're talking about. Vega's quotation marks footsies are actually kind of weak if you compare him to an actual footsie character like we used it back in the day, right? You would think, well, I got a claw. Why wouldn't that beat a duck short? It's not how Super Turbo worked. Not how Super Turbo actually works, right? Now, you would say this is now, there are certain things you can do. Like, now, let me say this. So, Vega does have, let's say if I were to do, I got to wait, time out. I'm not very fast at mashing. It's hard, dude. It is hard for me. My hands are so bad, dude. I'm not even mad. So let's say if I were to do that, right? That's another checking move for Ryu, right? Well, we'll say if I do a stand fierce, because a stand fierce might beat a duck short, right? Well, let's look at this. Wait a second. Did you see that? Oh, fuck. Now, there are certain things like stand forward it's like half and half for a duck short, right? And that is an attack that hits Ryu ducking, right? But generally speaking, if you're just to look at this sort of the tool set of the characters on the ground, old school Ryu, not so much Super Turbo Ryu because they changed the priority. I'm going to say priority again, right? Old school Ryu has better footsies. Maybe Vega has to go in the air because, well, fuck, his normal attacks beat mine. What am I going to do? I have to jump. Quotation marks, have to jump. And of course, Ryu might randomly dragon punch a limb. He could be fireballing me, all this kind of stuff. And of course, if Vega is trying to run away, whatever, maybe for the wall dive, well, let's look at this. Do you see the hang time on Ryu's jump strong? That's a lot, right? And it has super good priority, and watch the deep dive videos about Ryu versus Vega, all that kind of stuff, right? And of course, old school Ryu also has air-to-air jump roundhouse. I hate to break it to you, dude, but Vega being a character that jumps off the wall and all this kind of stuff, it's not a fuck footsie character, right? Vega's quotation marks from a certain perspective are weak. That's why the character has to go to the air. He doesn't have a fireball. If Vega had a fireball, if the game was so homogenized and all this kind of stuff, maybe Vega wouldn't have to jump as much if he had a fireball. That's not his character. Right? I know I'm playing devil's advocate for Vega right here, but when people complain about Super Turbo and a lot of these old school games, they complain about it in a disingenuous way, a way that doesn't actually make sense if you know how the game works. I'm not saying that Vega is not one of the best characters in the game. He might even be the best character in the game, depending on your perspective, right? But you know what the great thing about Vega is? The thing that makes Vega good is not a homogenized mechanic. Vega's win condition is not the same as other characters. Just like Ryu's win condition is not the same as other characters. Just like Dhalsim's win condition is not the same as other characters, right? The characters do not have a homogenized win condition. They do not every character, use an example like Alpha 2, not every character has the best move in the game. We don't all share the best move in the game. It's not Street Fighter 6 where every character shares the same way to get in with Drive Rush. Every characters are different, dude. It's not homogenized. Go watch the deeper dive videos when you can actually, where I go kind of dissect more of Ryu versus Vega. This isn't that Ryu beats Vega, right? But Ryu can discourage Vega, right? And especially when you hear, again, I'll say it again, people talking about Vega fucks Footsies and he destroys all neutral. Well, geez, I mean, look at this. You know, Ryu's mashing on duck short, right? Oh yeah, God, it's hard for me to even hit the button twice. Well, gee, what am I going to do? We've already seen it beats my normals. Are you going to say that Ryu's duck short is a fucking neutral move? You know, every characters have their own neutral. And when I said so many times before, Super Turbo is a game of the balance and the chaos, right? Where there's so many powerful moves. When every characters have powerful things, right? You take this neutral with one character, you take this neutral with one character, and they can combine to create a different neutral. Old Ryu's neutral versus new Ryu's neutral is actually different in this matchup because of the priority of Ryu's Footsies in the match and what beats what, right? Again, not even a different character, so to speak, just a different version of the character creates a different neutral when their neutrals combine, right? So again, just talking about when people complain about these old school games, it's often extremely disingenuous. There are many bad things about Super Turbo. Super Turbo should not have a random factor in terms of doing special moves, that kind of stuff, right? But many times people complain about Super Turbo in a way, and it's actually to play devil's advocate, the best thing about Super Turbo. Vega being a character that jumps all around is one of the best things about Super Turbo. From a certain perspective, I think, actually, right? Anyway, if you like the videos, like, sub, comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. Watch the bigger, deeper dive videos on this topic if you want to. The end.